What is up, guys? It's the Sound Alchemist, part of One Mind Syndicate, and today I'm back to talk about Warhammer 40K. In this one, I'm going into an excerpt from the Big Daka. We are continuing our lore on the orcs, as today is Orktober, of course. So let's go ahead and see how a Drukhari converses with its orc prisoner and what they both find out about each other. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive right in. "Are you capable of speech, beast?" she asked softly. The orc's ears twitched, its eyes narrowed, and it took a single seismic step towards the bars of its cage. "Can you speak?" Daemira asked again, but this time she spoke in the Mon-K tongue. They called it Low Gothic. It was a barbaric, blocky language that stuck between the teeth, but it was widely used and understood by many species across the galaxy, since humanity's Xenocidal Manifesto did not preclude some of its individual members from trading and negotiating if they thought there was a benefit to be had. The orc took yet another step. It was now standing right up against the bars. It didn't grab them, like a prisoner might. It simply ignored them and stared straight at her, as though its incarceration was of no concern. "Yeah," it said in Low Gothic, its voice a rumble as deep as an earthquake. A thrill ran through Daemira as the monster spoke. It was a jolt of excitement prompted by the rare sensation of a new experience, since she had never before in her centuries of life spoken with an orc. However, it was also a chill of fear, deliciously uncommon in itself, at the notion of an orc that could comprehend and respond using language. It barely mattered that the language in question was a primitive one. The sheer possibility of communication with this species felt like a gulf had opened up beneath her. The galaxy, or her understanding of it, had changed, and change sat ill with a culture that has existed in the same way for tens of millennia. "Do you have a name, creature?" she asked, fascinated and appalled at the same time. In response, the orc coughed out a collection of aggressive-sounding syllables. Then it grinned at her, showing a mouthful of massive ivory fangs, and it spoke again. "In the Umi language, you'd call me Ufhak Blackhawk." The name was barely any smoother when rendered into Mon-K sounds, but it was at least vaguely intelligible. Daemira stored it away for reference. Anything she could learn about this brute and its kin might be of use in ensuring her victory. "I know you," the orc said, unprompted. Its brow was furrowed in concentration. "You're the spiky boss what made like you wanted to fight, but just danced around a lot." Daemira bristled, but she had little comeback. She'd not even managed to land a blow on the monster, and it was only thanks to her own immense skill and agility that it had failed in its own attempts. "You took out Oozgit and his lads well enough," the orc said. "That was some good scragging." Daemira blinked. Had the thing just complimented her? "So," the orc said, looking around its cell as though seeing it for the first time, "I ain't dead. Guess you's got a plan." "You will be placed into the arena this evening," Daemira said. "There you will be matched against the deadliest opponents and the most dangerous beasts that Kamara has to offer. Until you die, that is." She smiled at the thought until she realized that the orc was smiling back at her. "Sounds good to me." "Good?" Daemira folded her arms. "Did you not understand me, you witless brute? This is a death sentence for you." "Gonna die at some point," the orc replied with a shrug. "Might be today, might be tomorrow, might be when the sun blows up and fries everything. So long as it's violent or funny, I ain't bothered." Daemira was rendered speechless for a few moments. It was one thing to scoff at the orc's disdain for casualties, to assume that they were mindless beasts that had no concept of mortality. But it was quite another to be smacked in the face with the realization that they understood it and simply didn't care. Every aspect, every single facet of Drukhari society was concentrated on extending one's lifespan for as long as possible. They sheltered in the webway to avoid the attention of she who thirsts. They nourished their souls with the suffering of others in order to stave off their own death. Nobles, such as herself, devoted great swaths of their wealth to their own protection. in the certain knowledge that others of her own kind desperately wanted her dead, simply so they could seize the resources she controlled and use them to lengthen their own lives a bit further. The notion that orcs didn't fear death, that there was no lurking, malicious entity that they knew of, waiting to torture them for all of eternity in the darkness that lay beyond their final breath. Why should this species of barbarians enjoy such luxury? Why should they be so carefree? How could they have such life, such vitality, and still seek to squander it amidst the thunder of guns? For the briefest of moments, Daemira had a vision of something else, a life in which the shadow of she who thirsts did not cast a subtle blight on every waking moment and trail its fingers through her dreams, a life in which she did not cling desperately to her own existence by torturing other beings, lest she suffer far more hideous torments than the spark of her own soul sputtering out, a life in which she could just live. This made her furious. "You are savages," she hissed. "Do you even know why you fight?" "Yeah," Ulfthek said. "Do you want to know why you do?" Daemira frowned. "What?" "Orcs always fight," the massive creature rumbled. "Always have, and it's what we's made for, but it ain't just that. It's what the gods want, but it ain't just that. See, the more we fight, the bigger we get." It tapped itself on the chest with one massive finger. "The bigger we get, the smarter we get." It tapped itself on the side of the head. "And the smarter we get, the better we get at fighting. If we don't fight, we slow and stupid, and then we might forget about the gods. We might forget about teleporters and gorgons and boom-decker snaz wagons." "You're just making words up now," Daemira broke in angrily. She took a step back as the orc lashed out with a punch. It passed between the bars and struck the force field, which held with a crackling boom of energy. But the thing's arms were long enough that it would have reached her if that protection had not been there. "I was talking," the orc growled, and the hairs on the back of Daemira's neck stood up as the subsonic harmonics of the creature's voice shivered through her bones. And with that being said, that is the end of this excerpt from the novel The Big Dakka, which showcases a good example of just how terrifying orcs can be. You think they're just brutes that care about fighting, but that's more than just what they are. Fighting is such a big part of their culture and who they are as an individual, but fighting is what also makes them smart. The more they fight, the more they survive, the bigger they get, the smarter they get, the more they can build, the more they can achieve in order to keep fighting. It's a cycle of just death and destruction that creates more death and destruction at an even bigger level the longer they live. And that is something that the orcs have a good time doing, living. No care in the world about anything else besides just living and fighting, and that's what makes them such a threat. We see that the Drukhari are so encased in their own protection of living longer, what to do in order to make sure that Slaanesh isn't at their throats, or any other Drukhari for that matter, and they're basically living in fear their whole lives, and they live for millennia. Some of them do, at least. So it is a very interesting concept where the orcs live carefree, where the Drukhari live full of cares and overall fear. Now, very, very interesting lore that we get from two Xenos in this novel. Usually we get this type of context or view into the psyche of species through the eyes of the Imperium, but here we have one of those hidden gems that not many people talk about. But that's all I got for today, guys, so let me know your thoughts on this excerpt. If you've read the entirety of the book, let me know if there are any other excerpts you want me to cover. And as always, subscribe for more Orktober. All month long, we're going to be talking about the orcs. So, again, guys, I'll see you in the next one. This has been The Sound Alchemist, reminding you to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you then. Peace.
Oh, what if you could put my freedom back in